now we're gonna enter the museum about North Brabant, which is open now at 11 o'clock. It's gonna be the first museum that we visit, and yeah, it's a museum about art and the life in the past history of this province. So they built the museum around the parliament basically.
Yeah.
Because the rest looks quite modern. It also has a cafe. The first part of this museum is basically art from artists who lived here in this province. But it looks like modern art, so it's not traditional classical art from the Middle Ages or from the Renaissance period. It looks as if it's from the 20th century. So for example, this is from a famous artist who was born in Antwerp, Bruegel. And this is a modern exposition about what happened the last couple of years, about hospitals during the coronavirus pandemic. So here you can see, family members were not allowed to come to visit their loved ones who were lying in a hospital bed, and they had to video call to keep track of how they were doing. And it was a very intense atmosphere with a lot of sadness and overwork, intensity. They couldn't believe that people suddenly lost oxygen and their lungs were not working anymore, and they had to be intubated. And then for many patients it got worse and worse, and this was during the first wave, which was arguably the most scary and horrible one, because they were unprepared and they couldn't offer much help. Also, it was very unknown, like what is this virus or this thing that is happening right now, and how can we solve it. We were told off for using the selfie stick, so the tripod that we used to film, so we had to put it away, and now I'm just gonna film with my hands. So these are remains of animals, trees and so on that lived in prehistorical times here in Noord-Brabant. You can see also some fossils from Tilburg. And the Romans were also here. You can see a Roman helmet, a sword, and a jar, some ornaments. So in the 12th century, the Duke of Brabant comes and annexes the whole region. The Duke called Henry I, and this region, when that happened, this region became very affluent, very rich. In fact, it was Den Bosch became the second largest city of the Netherlands.
Markten zijn belangrijk in de middeleeuwen. Niet alleen voor de handelaren, maar ook voor de steden. Een grote markt geeft de plaatselijke economie een enorme boost. De stad verdient namelijk aan de belasting die over de koopwaar geheven wordt. En ook aan het verblijf van de handelaren.
The wealth of Noord-Brabant came to an end because in the 16th century there were revolutions against the Catholic Church and the Spanish King Philip II, who was ruling over a big part of the Netherlands and Flanders. There was a great iconoclasm by the Protestants, who started besieging and destroying Catholic monuments, and in the end it turned into the 80-year war. And the solution to that conflict is that Noord-Brabant, like the Duchy of Brabant, was subdivided into the north of Brabant, which is this region, and the south belonged to the King of Spain. And the wealth of this place came to an end. After the 80-year war, this region falls into the hands of the Dutch government and doesn't have an autonomy to decide over their own affairs, but The Hague does, which is where everything will be decided for Noord-Brabant. And in The Hague, the governing body was made up of Protestants who didn't care about the Catholics of this region, and it was even so intense, the conflict between Protestants and Catholics, that it was forbidden to be a Catholic, so Catholics had to go to church in secret. The people from North Brabant were of course tired of being oppressed, so later on they decided to make a revolt against the Dutch government called the Orange Revolution, and they got help from the French to overthrow the illegitimate Dutch government that was governing over them. After that period of poverty, North Brabant rises up again with its own autonomy gained back from the Netherlands. Industry starts to flourish, factories work, so it turns from an agricultural area into a more industrialized area that offers a lot of work for everyone who comes to live here during the 19th and 20th centuries. And after that we have one of the darkest times in history, World War II. And the Germans opened a concentration camp here, which is just outside of Den Bosch. So we just come from the Design Museum. That museum didn't have much to offer. I found the other museum a bit better, personally, but now we are done with it, and now we are gonna go try to have some kind of lunch, maybe just a snack or something, we'll see. So we have arrived at the Nationaal Monument Kamp Vught, which is what we already said. It's basically the remains of a concentration camp from the Second World War. And we can enter here with our museum cards, so let's do that.
Het is niet makkelijk voor te stellen, maar het was echt zo. Als je in kamp Vught zat en je kwam toevallig te dicht bij het hek, dan werd er op je geschoten. In 1933 kwamen de nazi's in Duitsland aan de macht. De nazi's vonden zichzelf de beste mensen die er bestonden. Veel andere mensen vonden ze minder waardig. Polen en Russen, Sinti en Roma, homoseksuelen, mensen met een donkere huidskleur, mensen met een verstandelijke handicap, maar vooral Joden.
Ich weiß, alles was ihr seid, seid ihr durch mich und alles was ich bin, bin ich nur durch euch allein.
De leider van de nazi's, Adolf Hitler, werd enorm populair.
Unser deutsches Reich, unser deutsches Volk.
Een schreeuw wil ik het hoor. Zo ontzaglijk positief en allemaal met die ding. Het was gewoon voor een massa hypnotiseur was het.
In zijn boek Mein Kampf schreef Hitler al dat volgens hem Joden de oorzaak waren van alle problemen in Duitsland. De nazi's begonnen volop propaganda te maken tegen de Joden. Lang niet iedereen geloofde die onzin. Maar niemand wist hoe erg het nog ging worden.
It's like when people believe something too much without asking themselves why.
Yeah.
It gets really, really bad.
Kinderen, vanaf dit schooljaar mogen jullie Joodse klasgenoten niet meer in onze school komen. Ze hebben een eigen school gekregen. Dat spijt mij verschrikkelijk. Ik zal ze missen. Maar we zullen ze niet vergeten. Hè? Goed.
Terwijl haar vroegere klasgenootjes van niets weten, komt Roosje met haar familie in kamp Vught terecht.
Verdammt nochmal! Er wird weit! Los! Weiter auf! Verdammt nochmal! Wenn ihr Los! Einsteigen!
Van gifgas uit. Op 11 juni 1943 stierven Roosje, haar moeder en Horst in de gaskamer van Sobibor. Roosje was toen 15 jaar oud. Horst was 10. Marta kon veel langer in kamp Vught blijven. Maar uiteindelijk moest ze ook op transport. Na een gruwelijke tocht langs verschillende concentratie- en vernietigingskampen kwam voor haar de bevrijding net op tijd.
This is where the people from the film were walking. Quite horrible to think that. These were the watchers of the camp. And these are the different symbols that the people got depending on their classification. The clothing that they brought. This is basically where they were sleeping, eating, and I guess where they were also executed. But this is not the original material. This was the area where they would eat. So a kind of dining room. They would also spend time here playing or talking to each other. They had a lot of spare time when they were not working outside. And this is where they slept. There was one bed for every person, and no stairs, no ladder, so you had to kind of step onto here and then here, then you would come to your bed, and they didn't really pay attention whether you were too old or whether you had problems like fear of heights or something. Very inhumane. Let's see how this feels. Oh, that's quite horrible. It's also with straw. So you had to sleep here with so many people. Oof. I think it's better to sleep on the ground. Somehow very disturbing to see all of this, to think that this is history. That this happened, that people agreed to take part in this dark period of history and go along with what they were telling them. It's very hard to believe. But yeah, we need to check out these places to realize that mostly it's not so bad nowadays, and that we cannot take freedom for granted. And yeah, these are all the victims and their ages. Only from this camp. There were many more camps. So this is where many people died. The crematorium. I get shivers. This was a laboratory. They would take the organs here of people and analyze them. This is where they burnt the corpses. Maybe you also saw it in films from the Second World War, They just put the bodies here and they burned them. So we already checked out the National Monument. It was disturbing, but you do learn to appreciate a lot. So I think it's very good sometimes to check out these things that are sad but eye-opening at the same time, and otherwise we just live in a bubble and we say stupid things like we want the old times back and so on. Like this, at least we are better informed, and ignorance shouldn't rule. So explore the past to avoid a dystopian future. So that was the cultural part of Den Bosch. We hope you liked it, and if you want to check out the first part of Den Bosch, where we explore the city center, you can click on the left. Thanks and bye.